second term. A lot of people, when he was... Dr. Jaishankar, I'd like to give you a chance to comment on lots of interesting things that have just been said, but also maybe chuck in an extra element, which is Donald Trump. Any discussion of world affairs comes back to him. How much, have you been surprised by the direction of his second term? A lot of people, when he was re-elected, said, okay, we kind of know what he's like. We've seen him in office before, but is this a different Trump that we're dealing with the second time around?
I'll take the easier one first.
Yeah.
Sure.
The
thoughts which are going on. Let me pick up on two things which Lana said. I think the truth is, to a great deal, everybody has that sense of it's not my war. We don't admit it at times. But it's very natural, because at the end of the day, the more stakes you have, the closer it is to you, the more vested you are. It's your war. And for somebody else, the further away they are, it's not their war. I think there needs to be a degree of understanding of that. And the expectation that, my war, as I said, I've had this statement thrown back at me repeatedly, so I don't repeat, I don't want to dwell on it too far, but I think the expectation that in the sense Ukraine, because it is so strong in Europe's calculus, is therefore shared by the rest of the world to the same degree, is no more reasonable than the rest of the world. Each region would have its own priorities. So again, because we keep coming back to Russian oil, look, when we didn't buy significant amount of Russian oil till 2022. Circumstances compelled us to get into that market. And I must say, Russians have been steady suppliers because they put the cargoes out there and you go out there and buy oil, whichever is the most reasonable and available oil. But I do want people to remember this. At that time, the US specifically asked India to buy Russian oil to stabilize the world markets. Okay? Right now, if you see, after having first put tariffs on us last year for buying Russian oil, the US then again lifted its sanctions
because
on Russian oil.
They need the oil price down again. Yeah.
So let's not pretend that there is some great principle involved here. I mean, if it is on, off, and do it when it suits us and don't do it when it doesn't suit us. I mean, come on, we are all the adults in the room. We know what the game is. So I don't think making this about sanctimony is really warranted. Okay.
Well, if you don't like sanctimony, then Donald Trump's your guy. He's very frank about. But
wait, hang on. I have one other point.
Yeah, please.
And that's the resilience point. Because you asked me saying, what are you doing other than, what can you do other than being a frustrated observer? No, I think, look, there are immediate responses. There are short-term, medium-term responses. What, for example, we heard from Lana is UAE, for example, is de-risking by trying to build alternative evacuation routes for its energy. So what we're going to see to some degree is the Gulf itself de-risk the Gulf. Okay? To some extent, the rest of the world will work with the region also to build redundancy, and the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor is envisaged as one such initiative. But the third one, which is really interesting, I cite my own country as an example. Today, our largest oil supplier, little less than 40% is Russia. Our largest gas supply is the United States. And that was not the case till the 28th of February of this year. The main supplier was Qatar.
Sure.
So what is happening is the world is also de-risking on the region. People are looking for alternative energy sources and saying, okay, I'm prepared to buy at longer distance, maybe at a higher cost, but there is a greater security about it, predictability about it. So what I see in a way is that the global energy scenario will fundamentally change after this. Now, I'm not unidimensional. I'm not saying, for example, in India's case, our relationship with the Gulf is only about oil. As I said, we have many other factors, including people, talent, skills, business, security. But definitely, the way the energy flows were on the 27th of February before this war started, it's going to be significantly different, possibly irreversibly different once this phase is over. So in an interesting way, just like the Ukraine conflict changed the energy flows for this region, what the Iran conflict is going to do is probably change the energy flows for Asia, certainly, possibly for much of the world. Your question
Yes.
on Trump, I was coming to that. Look, it is natural that people would extrapolate from one term to another. But it is also a fact that the second term, the politics of the second term was significantly different. And I think the politics of that and how America itself and American, sort of institutions and systems have reacted to that has been extrapolated onto the rest of the world. In a sense, the answer is a kind of a yes and a kind of a no. I think what the first term and the run-up to the election had shown us was that there would be a very high degree of change. Okay? And you have to kind of acknowledge it, that much of what happened was actually declared in advance. Tariffs, for example. It's just that a world accustomed to its habits did not actually think this would be carried out. This is rhetoric, but it won't become policy, or policy would not become practice. In that sense, I would say all of us were braced for a term where there would be very significant departures from the past, even from his first term. But I think probably most of us, I really can't think of anybody who was not, did not probably expect it to be as radical as it turned out to be. Now, some countries and some situations have felt it less. I mean, in our case, for example, we are not an alliance partner, so it didn't impact our security the way it would do to a NATO country or a bilateral treaty partner. There would be, countries who in other areas were all affected, like in tariffs. There would be some countries who were more affected on, say, immigration. So pick the issue and you would get, the world was unevenly impacted. But absolutely, I think all said and done, the world really did not see the intensity of that departure from previous policies in the second term.